Hello, and welcome to this brief webinar on romance scams in the time of COVID-19. During the pandemic, we have seen a rise in the use of online platforms to meet and socialize. And of course, with folks being online more and more, the scammers are finding them. During the pandemic, you are best able to reach us through the email address you find on the slide here before us, and we are able to then call you back. But this webinar will be very brief, so I hope you will stay with us as we learn about uh, uh, romance scams. So what does the Office of Consumer Protection do? We handle disputes between merchants and consumers with very limited exceptions. If you have paid for a transaction, you're not happy with the outcome, whether the service or the goods were not delivered to your satisfaction, we can help you if you have filed a complaint. And the exceptions are with landlord-tenant matters, malpractice, insurance. Those are the three big carve-outs of our jurisdiction. We provide consumer specialists to be able to answer your complaints by phone, email, or in person, usually. And right now, email is the best way to reach us, but we do call back. And for limited circumstances, we can arrange to meet with folks in person. We enforce the county's consumer protection laws, which means that if in the course of investigating a complaint we find a violation of the law, we can then cite or charge a particular individual. And in addition, we also do um, outreach to the community, and we also do education as well. Finally, we license and regulate certain businesses like auto repair, towing companies, if you're buying a new home, if someone's coming into your home to do any repairs on your refrigerator, any consumer electronics, if you're in a high-end secondhand personal property dealer like a pawn shop or a high-end consignment shop, they should have our license. Now, to go on to the topic of this micro webinar, romance scams, and as the title says, this is more than a broken heart. Catfishing used to just be a type of fish, but now it's a way that a con game works. The con artist, male or female, uses social media, dating websites, dating apps, or other venues to create a false identity for themselves. They will use public data on you to find a hook to reel you in, hence the phishing aspect. They'll use your interests, your faith, your career, whatever you're putting out on social media, these con men and con women can find. The ultimate goal is usually money. And in 2018 alone, $210 million was reported as stolen. Now, keep in mind, all scams are underreported. Folks are sometimes ashamed and don't like to report any scams, especially of this magnitude. And so $210 million is simply the tip of the iceberg. And as I mentioned at the top of the program, dating apps are thriving on the pandemic, and so are the scams. So the script of the scam is they find you and they sell themselves and they press you to communicate off platform. They could be men pretending to be women, women pretending to be men. They groom you to express strong emotions in a really short period of time. They don't video chat, so you don't actually see them for the most part. They'll send you photographs. They'll claim to be in a foreign country where internet access is dodgy. And the big ones are, I'm in the military, I work on an oil rig, or I'm some kind of a doctor with an international organization. But we definitely have heard of scams happening where someone's claiming to be a nurse in Pittsburgh or an investment banker in Germany. So it doesn't always have to be these romanticized occupations. They gain your trust, they discuss marriage, they may ask for intimate pictures so they can blackmail you later. But then comes the sting. They need money. Well, I'm stuck behind a closed border. I can't get out. I need money for plane tickets. I've got medical expenses. I want to come see you, but I need money for a visa. whatever it is. They may even ask you to set up a bank account to help transfer money. And so it becomes a nested scam because now you are a money mule and a money laundering scheme as well. And if they get a little bit, so they may start small, $250, maybe $1,000, something that may seem small to you, but they may be astronomical to someone else. And then it starts to grow. They'll ask for money to be wired. MoneyPack is used, gift cards are used. We have heard of instances where boxes of cash have been sent to a domestic address, likely another money mule who then transports it out. Recently, a news program or a TV talk show has been following this gentleman who thought he was marrying someone who was a nurse in Houston, and paying $1,500 a week to a German Nigerian lawyer to get her inheritance from the Bank of Germany. You can imagine, Maria was really a 20-something-year-old Nigerian man. Here is how they were able to discover the fraud. So how do you find out if you're possibly being scammed? The pictures they're sending, you can upload a picture to Google Images. I think Bing Image as well could work, and just search the photo. Is it identified with the name that you're being given? Is that picture associated with a lot of names? Is it a stock photo of a model, for example? In the story that I mentioned, it turns out Maria was actually a woman who's a twin social media stars from Sweden, and her name was actually Angelica. So she had been used a lot to scam folks, and New York Times just did a story about a man whose face and image had been lifted off of his Instagram page to perpetuate fraud as far as Germany and Hungary to dozens of women. So the folks that are being used for their photographs, because they're just putting photos out there, are being victimized as much as the person who is now in the romance scam as well. The best thing to do is to limit your social media presence to as private of a setting as you can, so that the public at large can't find you to be able to target you or to be able to use your photographs to perpetuate a fraud on others. The other way you can look at it is to see, has that profile disappeared off of the dating website, or has off of the page that you first met him on or her on. You want to search the name where your sweetheart says he or she works for. Does it even exist? And if so, is there a directory? Can you call them and say, does Dr. So-and-so really work for this organization? Does Miss So-and-so really work on this oil rig? You can find people on the internet through a lot of not very difficult search methods. And then you want to find the story and put the word scammer after it. Do you hear this story a lot from other people who claim have been scammed by a similar story? Obviously, don't send someone you haven't met in person any money. That's the easiest way. Charities obviously are a completely different story. You have ways of vetting charities, which is a completely different scenario with like give.org, GuideStar, Charity Navigator. That's really the only exception to just giving money to people you haven't seen in person. You never want to open up a bank account for someone you haven't met in person and don't know. And you want to do your research. You want to talk to a trusted friend. Trust your instincts. If you think that something is wrong, it just might. If you or someone you know has been a victim of a romance scam, where do you report? If you've lost money, absolutely report it to the FBI's IC3.gov. That's the Internet Crime Center. You also want to report it to the Federal Trade Commission. They collect data so that they know exactly where they need to focus things on. They also work with the FBI and with foreign authorities to be able to track down scammers. So it's a double report, but that's okay. If you use Western Union to wire money or any other wire service like MoneyGram, you want to contact them directly about it. and see if there's a way of tracing the wire. Wires are very, very hard to trace. And if you happen to use a gift card, report it to the company who issued the card right away. The gift cards can be drained immediately. So the sooner you can get to the gift card company, the better, to try and stop the transaction. If you have questions about this or other items, we have a wealth of information on our website, which is at the bottom of this slide. We have an A to Z library. We have the link to complaints if you want to file a complaint form. Under our media section, we have newsletters on a variety of subjects, as well as news articles under our consumer news section. You can find the links to our social media pages. They're public, so even if you don't happen to subscribe to a particular platform, you can still read our daily news alerts about scams that we are seeing out in the marketplace. And if you do have questions, absolutely reach out to us at the email address below. Thank you for listening.